Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast.
What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? Hey, this is Christian Brindle, wherever you are and however you might be listening to me today. Thank you so much, folks, for taking the time. Welcome to episode 252 of the Everything Medicare Podcast, my friends. Every single week, we bring you a podcast. My name is Christian Brindle, by the way. I own a little agency called Christian Brindle Insurance Services, located about 15 minutes outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. And every single week we bring you a podcast where we discuss your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with that golden age called retirement. And folks, this is episode 252 again. And today we're going to talk about term life insurance versus whole life insurance. It's going to be a shorter episode. We've been experimenting with doing shorter episodes, although I fully intend to bring back the longer 20 to 30 minute format in weeks to come. One thing I wanted to talk about, so first things first, this is the Everything Medicare Podcast. I feel like from time to time, I like to throw in a topic that might be somewhat related, but not specifically in the same world, and that's life insurance, right? Term versus whole life. What should you get? Well, let's first define the two. Whole life is a lot of times going to be, the most common type of whole life insurance you're going to see is usually burial insurance. Final expense plans is what they call it, right? Plans that will pay $5, $10, $20, $30, $40,000 out to a beneficiary of your choosing if maybe you were to pass away. And it's based on the price you get it at, the age you get it at. Also, depending on where you get it from, some types of whole life insurance or final expense plans will not pay out a claim until you've had the insurance for about 2 years. A lot of the good ones, though, pay day one, and so you got to be careful when you're shopping for those. But a lot of times the premiums, the reason why they call it whole life is because it will, truth be told, no pun intended, last for your whole life. Right? They don't have any expiration dates for the most part. Some of them will expire at age 100, so on and so forth. And usually that's probably what you're looking at. The premium is going to be, again, based on the age you buy it at. So the younger you buy one of those at, the longer that it stays lower, right? And the lower it stays over course in time. A good whole life insurance policy, the price never goes up, the benefits never go down. I bought one out on my daughter when she was about 14 days old. And I did that because it's like $20-$30 a year in premium, and it doesn't ever go up. It's based on the age that I bought it out for her at. And it's about $10,000, Now, talking about term life insurance is a different animal altogether. Term life insurance will cover you for a specific term of time or a period of time. Could be 10 years, could be 20 years, could be 30 years, just depending on how old you are at the time. Some insurance companies won't offer a 20 or 30 year if you're over a certain age. In fact, a majority of them. And they usually pay out somewhere between $100,000, like Mutual of Omaha's, for example, last time I looked, it was somewhere between $100,000 and $68 million. So just depending on how much coverage that a person actually wants. I personally have $1 million on myself in term with Mutual of Omaha, because I thought it was a good thing for me at that point in time to protect my family. It's a 20-year. Usually the characteristics of a term is once the term has come and gone with most insurance companies, you can still keep it. It's not to say that it completely expires, but they're usually going to 4 or 5x the premium every year after that. So it just becomes unaffordable very quickly to keep that term policy. So term is more of a temporary solution, right? But it's going to pay out a much larger amount. My expectation would be any debt that we have, my wife would be able to pay it off with the term policy if anything were to happen to me. It'd be a cushion to fall back on for her and my daughter. And so those are things that, in my opinion, are going to be very vital and very important. Now, where are you at? And what should you get? Well, it kind of depends. Term life insurance, a lot of times, especially when you're on Medicare, is going to really put you under a microscope, right? They're going to ask you 1,000,001 health questions. They're going to look at you very closely. They're going to want urine samples, blood samples, and they potentially might take months to actually decide if they want to take you or not. So if you're not in fairly good health, if you're in poor health, you might either have a hard time getting one, or you might pay an arm and a leg for one, depending. Whole life, they don't look at you as closely, partially because if you look at the two, term is a better deal. You can sometimes get a $100,000 term policy for the same price as you can get a $10,000, $20,000 whole life policy. But the argument that whole life people make is that you don't know when you're going to die. If you don't die, let's say, and this is a morbid topic, I know, but if you don't die within the term, right, the time period that is listed to you, you walk away with nothing from the term policy. But at the same time, with whole life, if you get it young enough, pay a high enough premium, you might end up paying more in premium before you end up using it than you actually would get in terms of a death benefit. So where are you at? What should you get? I think if you're younger, you should get term. Just my personal opinion. If you have debt, mortgage, you should get term. That's another reason why they call it mortgage protection. If you're older, let's say maybe you're on Medicare, maybe you're 70, something like that, you should probably get a whole life plan if you have some health issues, because it might be too difficult for you to be able to get a term at that point in time. Doesn't mean you can't. And if you can, maybe a 10 to 15 year term would benefit you. But a whole life plan is probably going to be easier for you to get if you have some health problems, and you get some kind of protection going forward. So life insurance is always dependent on many variables, and we have some full episodes on this if you want to go back earlier on in the show and listen to it. Just wanted to give you just a quick episode for this week. I'm planning next week to have a 20 to 30 minute episode for you, and I'm really, really excited about it. But didn't want to miss an episode for you folks for this week. Just remember, when it comes to life insurance, it all depends on your situation, where you're at, what you can afford. If I was younger, I'd get term. If I was older, I might get whole life, unless I could get a term, to which I don't know. I'm a fan of term in terms of value, but it is true that I see a lot of people be on a term for 20 years, pay into the premium, and they walk away with nothing. Whole life builds some kind of cash value, even though it's pretty pitiful when you really look at the amounts of the cash value. So it just depends on where you're at in your particular situation, but it's good for you to know the difference between the two, because then you can accurately shop for what's best for you. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching or listening to this short little episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, comment your thoughts down below. Which one do you prefer, whole life or term? And hit the notification bell so you're notified when we upload. Subscribe. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, give us a 5-star review and something you like about the show, and we'll be back with a doozy episode for next week. Thanks so much for your time, and happy Medicare.